From tragedy to inspiration. Wow! What an inspiring story. Welcome to the Joyous Expansion Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Dupree, scouring the globe to bring you stories of courage, passion, and resilience. If I can sum up this podcast into one word, I would use empathy. Now let's get inspired. Welcome to the Joyous Expansion Podcast. I am your host, Brett Dupree. I am recording this on a Thursday, the day after I meant to put this out there, meaning I am a day late and $1 short. Just kidding. I don't make money off of this yet. Maybe. I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this for fame. But luckily I'm getting neither. Just kidding. Or am I? Anyway, yes, I have been very busy lately. I was in a play. I was a clacker. I had to act like a mechanic, steampunk mechanic of a time ship, which is fun to actually say. It was fun to actually play, and I had a good time. It was a fun way to spend a Saturday evening. I had a good time. Then, of course, there's my Toastmastering, working on building my own club. Have a few emails to send, maybe after this, if I feel so inclined to do so. Lately, I've been thinking a lot of being 40. I am going to be 40 in less than 20 days. Today is the 9th. My birthday is on the 28th. I can't believe I'm going to be 40. I never thought I'd be 40. When I was in my 20s, I thought there would be no way I was going to be 40. No way. In fact, when I was in 20s, one of my friends would say, if we're not married by the time we're 50, let's get married. And now that's 10 years away. How crazy is that? It's actually looking closer and closer to getting married than it is when I was 20s. Thinking about my life and thinking about where I want to be. Luckily, I do a lot of meditations. I love group meditations. That's one of my favorite things. And I was at a group meditation for the Modern Mystery School, one of the many groups I am a part of. I'm an initiate, actually. Still figuring out what that means exactly, but we'll see. It was fun. But I like going to their group meditations, and this one was Thoth, or however you say that Egyptian God's name, because he's man, or birdman. Thoth was always one of my favorites every time I learn about him and the magical powers that he has. And so the meditation was a guided meditation. And it helped me think about my life and where I want to be. Yes, I need to live more from the heart, which is my goal. I'm mostly thinking about what I want to give up when I'm 40. Well, before that, the meditation made me think about how I want to live my life. And I want to live my life from heart. And I've been thinking about turning 40 as if it was scary. As if it was something I didn't want to do. Which is silly, because it doesn't matter if I want to turn 40, if I don't want to turn 40, because on August 28th at roughly 8 a.m., I'm turning 40, whether I like it or not. And so if I'm doing it anyways, I might as well like it. So what does it look like going to 40 with heart? Number one, it means instead of looking at all the things I haven't accomplished, be looking at the things that I did. And also noticing that it's not an end. It's just a date. I'm still pushing forward. See, when I was young, I had the dumb idea, yes, it's dumb and naive, that when you're of a certain age, you'll have life figured out. And the more I get to know people who are older, because that's what happens when you age, your friends age, and the people around you are also older, and you start talking to older people, and you learn that nobody has anything really figured out. We're all just trying our best to live this weird life. If you think about it, existence makes no sense because non-existence is easy. Being something is difficult when you could just not exist. I'm not saying suicide. I'm saying existence, period, not living. I'm saying this plastic bottle next to me with water. It's easier for it to not exist. It's easier for it to not contain force. And yet it's there. Everything is there. Everything. And so thinking about how I don't have it figured out and letting go of the fact that maybe I never will. and just pushing forward, because that's what life is pushing forward, being forward, and being awesome. So that leads to the ultimate question. What am I giving up for 40? For you see, it's time for me to give up the idea that people don't like me, the idea that people don't want to be around me, the fact that because when I am in a conversation with somebody, I have it in my back of my mind that they don't really want to talk to me, that people really don't want to be my friend, that I need to end that conversation. And it's time to give that up, because that does not serve me. It is hard to make friends when in the back of your head, you're thinking that this person doesn't want to talk to me. It's hard to make friends when you're constantly thinking in the back of your head, we should end this conversation because you're annoying them. It's hard to feel part of a group when you think that any moment at any time they're going to realize that they do not want you there and they will kick you out. Maybe some things in my past gave me this idea that that might happen, but it doesn't matter, because even if it does, I'm part of many other groups, I'm part of many other communities, and what matters is that I live from heart, and from my heart, I soar. Because life is full of ups and downs and ups, which brings me to our next interview, Aimee Chandler. See, the interesting part about Aimee Chandler is I do not know her. I joined a group. I told this group who I am and what I'm doing, and this person reached out to me, and this is the first stranger I've ever interviewed. How cool is that? The thing that surprised me most about Aimee was how inspiring her story is. It was an honor to hear her share her story. It was an honor to hear the vulnerability of someone taking a tragic moment and listening to how they pivoted and turned it around. It was amazing. So I'm very much looking forward to you listening to this interview. Aimee Chandler, founder of Aimee Chandler Wellness, is a wellness coach focused on helping busy women create healthier lifestyles without making huge changes. Aimee works with women who have had major life event like a career, having children, or a medical diagnosis that have thrown them off course when it comes to their health and wellness. By showing them simple steps in the areas of their nutrition, exercise, and mindset, she helps her clients discover how to create habits that lead to a healthier, happier, and leaner version of themselves. Her master's degree in exercise science and 30 years of experience in wellness have made her an expert, but her own personal transformation 3 years ago showed her that her strategies work for any woman over 40 that wants to take back control of their health. Aimee lives in Simsbury, Connecticut, with her husband and 2 active kids. Their family's passion is soccer and traveling. And now here is my interview with Aimee Chandler. Welcome, Aimee, to the Joyous Expansion Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Brett.
You are the first person I've interviewed for this podcast that I've never actually met in person. So congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
So it says here that you are a wellness coach. How did you get into that?
So natural progression from my background in exercise science. I have been in the fitness and wellness industry for about 30 years, have always thrived on influencing other people in terms of their health and wellness. And through a series of events in my life, it has led me to finally step forward and pursue my passion as an entrepreneur. And I started my business as a health and wellness coach about 2 or 3 years ago, and I've been loving it.
Awesome. It's so cool to find things that you love. So you had some events in your life that happened to help spawn this transformation. Would you like to talk about it?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about it. Forewarning, it's definitely more of a tragic, kind of sad story, but it has a happy ending. So I was a successful corporate employee. I had had a pretty nice, easy life. Married my husband, decided to start trying to have kids. Was a little bit older, but really ready for a family. And unfortunately, we were faced with infertility. So after pursuing our options and going forward with infertility treatment, we were lucky enough to get pregnant right away with our first IVF. If anybody out there's been through infertility, they'll know how hard it is, the emotional roller coaster of your appointments and waiting for results and the next step and if things are going to take and that whole thing. But things were good until I hit 28 and a half weeks when, unfortunately, after a level 2 ultrasound came back with glowing results, I was in a situation where things weren't right. I went into my physician, my OB. They did an ultrasound on me and found out that I had no heart. The baby had no heartbeat. It was in that moment that everything just kind of fell out from underneath me. In a state of shock, in a state of panic, I was told that the baby was gone and that I was actually going to have to give birth to the baby because it was too far along to do a regular D&C. I had to come home and tell my husband what had happened after he was in a final for his graduate program and I wasn't able to reach him for about 5 hours. So that was insane crazy. In that moment, everything changed for me. I had never really faced anything so gut-wrenching and so emotional in my entire life. I had to pull it together and figure out what to do. So the hospital and my doctor were amazing and took such good care of us. I gave birth to the baby. Nothing was conclusive in terms of why he passed away, but we were lucky enough to have the opportunity to hold him, to be able to name him, to be able to bury him and have a ceremony. So there was closure on it for me, which was pretty important for me. And then I had to figure out what to do from there. So I did not realize it at the time, but my company forced me to take an 8-week maternity leave, just like any other mother would have to take. And I didn't think I needed it, but I quickly came to find out that yes, there was a whole emotional journey that I had to go through. Part of that was accepting the fact that I had failed at something, which was not easy for me. Like I said, I pretty much had lived my life where I did what I needed to do to get success. When this did not lead to the success I wanted, it was emotionally devastating for me. And I had to pick myself up and say, what am I going to do from here? I was able to persevere by using a lot of my health and wellness techniques, a lot of the things that I preach to my clients now in order to really de-stress and to be able to live in the here and now, in the present, and was able to take that as a way to push myself through that failure and go forward. And I'm happy to say now that I have 2 beautiful kids, 12 and 13 years old. I was able to use this experience as a life lesson, but not to let it define me as a woman or as a mom. And I'm happy to say that this has really helped me go further in my life.
Wow, that is a very powerful story. One thing that stood out to me is the fact that in this situation with your child, that you did everything right and things still went wrong.
Exactly. Yeah, it's one of those things that happens to people all the time, whether it's exactly my situation or something different, right? You put all your time and effort, you do the research, you plan, you get advice, you do all the steps required to be successful. In a moment, that can all be taken away. And that happens in business too, right? Like we get a coach, we have a mentor, we follow proven steps of how to set up a business or to successfully launch a business, how to do marketing. And then one day something just doesn't go right and you're faced with, okay, what am I going to do now? That didn't work the way it was supposed to work. How am I going to fix this? Where do I go from here? And I think so many of us business entrepreneurs experience that. I would think that you've probably been in that situation yourself.
Definitely. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I started this podcast is to listen to other people's
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, you go through this point and this thing is not your fault. But at the same time, one thing I've noticed as an entrepreneur going through things that are not my fault, but it's really hard to not take things personally and to internalize and shame myself. So how did you escape the trap of shaming?
Yeah, absolutely. That's really tough, especially in this particular instance. I think women in general, we pride ourselves on being the providers, the supporters, sometimes even to the point of becoming a martyr. There's this unspoken thing about women that we all have the right and the ability to carry a child. And then for many of us, that doesn't actually happen. We spend so much time in our lives worrying about getting pregnant. And then when we really want to be pregnant, oh my gosh, some of us just don't have the ability to get pregnant on our own. So that was a big hit for me first, to face the facts that there was something physically inadequate with myself. And when you're in the fitness and wellness profession and you kind of pride yourself on being healthy and fit, to actually have to acknowledge and, like you said, not fall into that trap of shame because your body is not doing something that most women can do. That was a big hurdle for me in the beginning. Then to actually successfully go through infertility treatments and feel like, okay, I've figured this out. I've done the work. I've put my body through all of this treatment in order to get pregnant. That was a huge accomplishment. But then to have that dream totally fall apart because of this miscarriage was tough. And at the time, I happened to work in a situation where there were a lot of teenage pregnancies that I was faced with. And it was hard, like you said. It's funny, I've never really thought about it as shame, but you're right. It's having to walk in and explain to people that I miscarried so far along and that I didn't take an 8-week maternity leave and have a baby at home. There was a lot of shame with that. And I found the way to get out of that was, and this was tough for me, is when I allowed myself to accept help and accept people's empathy, it allowed me to walk away from that shame. I think so often women, we want to be the superwoman. We want to be able to do everything and to be great at it. And that's how I was. And when I allowed myself to accept help from others, I was able to avoid falling into that shame trap.
Well, speaking as a man, we also have that aspect as well as we like to tout the self-made entrepreneur who pulled himself up by his bootstraps.
Yeah.
When you even think about that saying, though, that saying exists because you can't go on it by yourself because you can't actually pick yourself up by your bootstraps. It's impossible.
Right.
One thing that I also notice on my podcast and interviews is asking for help has been a huge theme that's helping people go through these tragedies. Did you have any blocks towards asking for help before you did or receiving help?
Yeah, I would say that I was definitely emotionally guarded before that experience. And I don't even really know why, to be honest with you. I was never one to kind of wear my heart in my sleeve. People always thought of me as being emotionally strong and I could just push through anything. But that experience definitely made me realize that a lot of my future was in the hands of someone else, whether it was the doctors, my faith that this would actually happen. You know, how you had said originally, like you did everything right, you did all the steps right, but it still didn't work. A lot of this does force you to rely on a lot of mindset work and a lot of faith in a higher power that this will happen. It's just a matter of time. It definitely taught me a lesson in reaching out. Like I said, I did not think I needed an 8-week maternity leave to grieve and to get the help. And I resisted actually going to a therapist. because I thought I could work my way through it alone. But quickly, 2 weeks into it, after crying every single day, my husband kind of looked at me and said, I really think you need to go and see somebody. And I did. That was hard for me because I had never been in a situation before where I ever needed to talk through my emotions with a professional. Yeah, it was a huge learning experience in terms of asking for help.
Wow, that is so cool. I know we have that
Yeah.
stigma of going to see therapy in our society when actually just talking to somebody about your problems can be very helpful.
Yeah. I think so many times we think like, oh, well, what are they really going to be able to do for me? They're not going to be able to get this baby back for me. They're not going to be able to improve my chances of getting pregnant the next time. But you're right. Sometimes just talking out loud to somebody who's not super close connected to your problem is just so freeing, and just getting those words out there. The minute we talk about fear, right? The minute you express your fear, it kind of like hangs out in front of you. The words are just out there and you can see them and you look at them and you say, are those fears valid? Are they even real? And if they are real, what can I do to overcome them? But when you hold all that inside and you don't get it out, I think our mind just kind of exaggerates the severity of that situation and we get paralyzed by it.
I 100% agree with that statement. So you go through this tragedy and you're working through it. You say in your bio that words sometimes fail. that this tragedy was an impetus to you starting out as your decision to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So I think anybody out there who's thought about going into business for themselves, maybe they've gotten redundant a couple times, they've been laid off due to the economy, or maybe they've tried to be, in a sales position and it's just not their thing. We've all been there where we felt like, oh gosh, there's got to be a better way, or only I could find a way to work for myself and have more flexible hours, or, whatever. I think anybody who's been in that situation knows that fear is usually what's holding us back from actually taking action. And for me personally, I was happy for a while in the corporate world working for somebody else. But as I got older, matured, watched my children grow, the children that I worked so hard to actually have, it became obvious to me that I was holding myself back from truly doing what my passion was and living a lifestyle that would afford me the opportunity to really be able to spend more time with my family that I had worked so hard to create. So for me, when I finally got to that point where it was becoming more and more obvious that I was ready to step out on my own, I definitely pulled from my experience with overcoming my fear when it came to getting pregnant and becoming a mom. It's not easy. It's definitely not easy. And every single day, there is a nagging fear inside me that potentially limits me from getting bigger in my business. But at the same time, there is definitely this amazing feeling that comes from finally stepping away from fear. And even if it's the smallest little success, when you can look back and say, oh my gosh, I have been holding back from doing this because I was afraid of that. And now look at what I've been able to accomplish. I think it's super important to every once in a while just get back to basics, get back in touch with yourself, and just look at what you've been able to do over a certain period of time, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, a year. And when you stop and say like, oh my gosh, if I didn't stop thinking in this fear-based place, I would never be where I am today. It makes you just that much more fueled to move forward. Does that make sense?
It does. I was wondering if you had an example of a time where you are about to step up to do something bigger, better, bolder, but fear was really hitting you and that you pushed through it?
Yeah, well, leaving a high-paying corporate job was huge for me. So I was wellness coaching as my part-time gig. I have been in the fitness wellness industry forever on a part-time basis. Started to dabble a little bit more in this online space and really found it exciting and new and fresh. But then I got to a point, Brett, where I really had to make a decision in order to grow in this side job, which was really my true passion. I made the determination that from a time perspective and an energy perspective, I had to choose. I had to choose between a high paying corporate job or really stepping out on my own and doing this. And that was, at times, it was a little bit paralyzing. I would think the thought, I would start the planning, and then I would freeze and say, you can't do this. You know, you have a family to support. Your husband's counting on your income. You've worked for 15, 20 years to get where you are in this field. You can't throw that away because you have a passion to do something else. I was definitely an all or nothing mindset kind of a person. So when I say that, just in case people don't understand what that means, I carried around with me in many areas of my life this attitude that if I couldn't do something to the 100% level, then why do it at all? If I couldn't be successful at something, then why would I even try it? And that hindered me from taking that step. But through my exploration of what online wellness coaching could be for me, I was lucky enough to have some mentors and some coaches who introduced me into a lot of mindset training. And I realized that all or nothing approach to a lot of things in my life was really holding me back from true happiness. And when I was able to step away from that all or nothing mindset and kind of walk away from my fear of leaving a stable, high-paying corporate job, so the world just opened up to me and allowed me to really finally do something that just motivated me. It didn't matter about the financial side of it. I have definitely been a financially driven person for a lot of my life. And now that really is not as important. And I've been able to experience the benefits of more family time, a more flexible schedule, the ability to be creative and really use my creativity to build a business. There's no amount of money that can give you that.
That is so cool. It kind of reminds me of that movie Talladega Nights, where his father kept on telling him as a young child, you're either first or you're last, and how that
Yeah,
kind of, always held him back all his life.
it's so true. It holds us back in so many things that we do. And I find that in my wellness coaching and helping women become the healthiest version of themselves, that all or nothing attitude is what really keeps people from trying different things, whether it's healthier eating or more movement or stress management. If they feel like they can't be perfect at good, healthy eating, they don't do it at all. And they're almost on the other end of it, right? They're eating junk food all the time. So it's hard. It's definitely hard.
Yeah, that's one thing that's helped me this year is not taking the all or nothing attitude towards my health, just to add something new each month and course correct as I keep on going on.
That's great. That's
So how do
perfect.
you help other people take on that mindset with their health, nutrition, and mindset?
As a wellness coach, I work with people individually one-on-one, and I work with people in groups. My group programs really focus on helping that busy woman who is usually just feeling overwhelmed with life and has allowed some kind of life event, whether it's a career, whether it's becoming a parent, maybe even like a medical diagnosis that has become so overwhelming that it's taken them away from their daily practice of self-care and healthy living. They've been there before and they want to get back to feeling better, having more energy, looking better, that kind of thing. But for some reason, they're just kind of stuck in this place where something else in their life is dominating their attention. I help them figure out that it doesn't have to be these huge, significant lifestyle changes in order to get back on track when it comes to your nutrition, your exercise, and your mindset. So the first thing is exactly what we just said, is kind of throwing that all or nothing approach out the window and starting to just take small steps to reframe how they approach those healthy habits, so that those healthy habits can become a part of lasting behavior change. Now, when I work one-on-one with people, it's usually for longer periods of time, like a 6-month period. And that's where we really dig into, like we were talking about, all those past failures of trying to be healthy. I mean, call it what it is, right? So many people in their lifetime as an adult, maybe from late teens to, their 60s, most people have been on some kind of diet roller coaster. They're on again, they're off again. They're either trying the newest fad diet and then quickly realizing that they can't maintain that past 30 days. They've had these experiences, whether it's Weight Watchers or Ideal Protein or keto or paleo, whatever it is. They get results, but then they can't maintain it. And they carry that baggage with them of that failure. Like, why can't I keep doing this? So in my one-on-one programs, I really work on kind of going back and identifying why it didn't work and then creating strategies so that they can have lasting success.
That reminds me of the first season of The Biggest Loser I watched. And one of the quotes always stuck with me is one of the guys said, "One thing fat people know how to do is to lose weight."
Yep. Isn't that amazing?
We're all experts, but at the same time, it's difficult. And having help, I could see having someone there to support you on your track towards wellness and health would be very beneficial. Do you have any fun success stories that you would like to share? Any cool clients that were able to turn things around?
Yes. So I had this great woman. She was just the most enthusiastic. She was part of a group program and she was a cheerleader and just so great. One of the areas that I feel like I am really honed in on, and it has to do with my ideal client, is helping the woman that is over exercising and under eating in order to lose body fat. So it's not about a number on a scale. It's about how the clothes fit. It's about, balancing out your body fat versus your lean muscle tissue ratio so that you are stronger and you have more energy. And this particular woman was actually a little bit older than my normal client. She was in her 60s. She had suffered from major thyroid disorder about 15 years earlier, to the point where she was actually hospitalized because of her thyroid. She had been on medication for years. And as she got older and older, she was a fitness enthusiast, went to the gym every single day, usually spent about 2 hours a day at the gym. She just thoroughly enjoyed exercise. And I know that's not everybody out there, but she really did. And she could not lose weight around her midsection. Every year, she just continually started to get a bigger waistline. And she was really frustrated because she was exercising all the time. She was cutting back her calories a lot. She was under 1,000 calories a day, but she was having these episodes of binging because she was depriving herself so much that when she was kind of low emotionally or stressed in her life with something, she would go to food to make herself feel better. Simply by following my steps, which included eating more protein, reducing her exercise. She actually cut back on her exercise in half, and really getting more into the mindset of what she was doing to herself. She was able to lose 6% body fat in 8 weeks. So for somebody who has been suffering from a thyroid disorder for 15 years, who had been spending 2 hours a day in the gym and playing games with herself when it came to her nutrition and her diet for over 10 years, this was just huge. And to see her make this transition, and it's funny because she'll post things in my Facebook group all the time where she's like, went out to dinner with my friends last night and everybody decided they were going to eat just like me because they've seen my results and they're so excited they want to experience the same. And to me, that's just the best. When people pass it forward, that just makes me so happy.
Actually, why I call my business Joyous Expansion, because the more people I touch and more people I help, the more people in their lives they touch and more people their lives they help. And then it goes forward and goes forward, goes forward and creates a joyous expansion across the world.
That's awesome. Yep, that's perfect.
So we're coming towards the end of our time here. And one thing that I love asking people is for a 1 minute of motivation, a way to distill your message into down to 1 minute, or think of it as advice you'd give to your 12-year-old self if you only had 1 minute in that time machine.
Yeah. Great. For me personally, it would be ditch that all or nothing attitude. Do not let that approach stop you from trying things in your life, whether it's a fear of heights, which I had, but I've overcome that and done some fun things, whether it's fear of failure. You know what? The world is your oyster. And when it comes to your health and your wellness, you have to figure out what works for you. Don't worry about what the rules are from the science experts and the doctors and health practitioners. Start trying things to figure out what works for your body and your lifestyle so that you can maintain your health for the long term. Don't end up having to be on medication, having to have help in your elder years. Do what you need to do when you're young so you can live a healthy, long life.
Thank you so much for being on my podcast. I love your story of going through something tragic and then allowing that to make you and not break you. And sharing your story with other people, I truly believe will help them look at their lives and what they have gone through so they also can move it forward. And your advice to give up that all or nothing attitude so that people aren't paralyzed by perfection is just very helpful. So thank you so much for the work you do for this world, as I know light workers like you help make this world a more bright and amazing place. Thank you so much for being on my podcast. I truly appreciate your time, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Brett. I really appreciate being on, and spreading the word is what it's all about. So good luck to you in the future, too.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Wow. What did I tell you, folks? Allow me to clue you in on a little bit on how the sausage gets made. Basically, I record these interviews, and then right before I'm about to put them on, that's when I generally edit them and then put them out there. I forgot how inspiring this story is and how inspiring Aimee is. Listening to her a third time was a treat because the first time was interview, second is edit, and third time just listening to it over again before I record this part. The way she talked about her miscarriage and the way that affected her and being able to utilize that to change her life for the better and going through something that tragic and allowing her to realize that maybe her fears of going for it aren't that scary. It's not going to be worse than losing that baby, which for me was a weird interview to give because it's not something I can relate to in a sense because I'm not a woman. And there's always a part of my mind where I don't want to offend. I don't want to ask a question that just seems me utilizing my ignorant male mind and asking something that is offensive. I mean, I'm not talking about the, oh, people are too sensitive type of offensive that people who are too sensitive about being jerks and wish everyone will allow them just to be as jerky as they want. And how dare people have feelings. No, I'm not talking about that type of I don't want to be offensive. I'm talking about the thoughtful kind where I care about other people's thoughts and feelings and I want to be a good person who isn't a jerk. But at the same time, I want to ask really poignant questions and try to get great content out there and lead the interviewee into going maybe a little deeper than they would have. And I think I did an okay job. I don't know. You be the judge of that. You can call me. If I get a bunch of emails from women calling me a jerk, I will know that I need to improve. But luckily, I've yet to get an email for this podcast, so maybe I don't have to worry about that. I loved Aimee's story. Listening to a story like that of someone going through that sort of tragedy and then really taking things to a whole new level. And one thing I really loved about Aimee's interview, was talking about ditching that all or nothing attitude. Because there's this idea in entrepreneurship that we will create something and everything will work out. But reality is some of it might and some of it might not. In fact, if you start a business 5 years from now, your business could be completely different than what you thought it was going to be. And that is okay. You just got to keep on pushing forward. And I'm hoping stories like Aimee Chandler will help you push forward. I mean, that is the whole point. And I'm hoping you're listening and enjoying such interviews. I know I enjoy listening to it again. And I'm inspired to keep on pushing forward. Keep on making Brett Dupree a better person so I can help more people. So if you're looking for Aimee to help you, Aimee works with clients both live live and virtually, one-to-one and in groups. When you decide to take back control of your health and wellness, Aimee can be found at www.aimeechandler.com. You spell Aimee, A-I-M-E-E, and Chandler like the show on Friends. Want an easy-to-use wellness and ease blueprint that provides meal planning options and 2 portable workouts to get you started? Use the link bit.ly/Aimee C Wellness Blueprint. Both of these will be on my website at pod.joyousexpansion.com so you can easily listen. Thank you for listening to the Joyous Expansion Podcast. Once again, I am your host, Brett Dupree, the Joyous Expansion Life Coach, the champion of authentic joy, the catalyst of transformation, the best hugger in the world 9 years running, the person with more titles than Daenerys Targaryen, a joke that I make every week because I still think it's funny. If you enjoyed this podcast and have a question or a comment, maybe I'll even read them. How fun would that be? You can email me at brettdupree@joyousexpansion.com. That's B-R-E, 2 T's, D-U-P-R-E-E. I forgot to do the 2 E's part. Someone told me they like that. At joyousexpansion.com. If you see sexpansion, you know you spelled it right. You can check out my website at joyousexpansion.com. I have a free book for you to download to help you have the ultimate mindset for success. How cool is that? I also have a book on Amazon at Joyous Expansion, Unleashing Your Passions to Lead an Inspired Life. Or if you want a signed copy, go to my website, book.joyousexpansion.com or bookland.joyousexpansion.com because I like making websites for myself. Actually, I don't. It's too much work. I need someone to make them for me. Anyway, if you like this podcast, I write a comment, review, make some stars. That would be helpful. If you want to give me money somehow, I do have an affiliate link for Acuity Scheduling. I highly recommend them as I love Acuity Scheduling. On my website, pod.joyousexpansion.com. Plus, you can buy my book, have some courses. I have ways to help you change your life because I love helping people. So thank you once again for listening to my podcast. I love you for it. I really do, with all my heart. I love you. So I'm Brett Dupree reminding you once again to be love, to be joy, to be awesome. Now it's time to play my jingle.
JoyousExpansion.com JoyousExpansion.com Come and say hello to Brett Dupree. He is an inspirational life coach, good for you and good for me. He turned my life from grey to blue, I'm sure he'll do the same for you. Get in touch and you'll see your life will change dramatically. JoyousExpansion.com JoyousExpansion.com Yeah.